to do. So my background is my very first job, I was a gym instructor. I always wanted to be in something to do with sports. I went from school to college to do a BTEC National Diploma in sports. I was really sporty. And then I had a trampolining accident and I burst my back. So I was in traction for a long, long time. And that was my career over and done with. So they didn't know if I would walk or anything like that. So yeah, and now considering what I do for a living, it's quite ironic. So I ended up in office jobs and I absolutely hated it. I went from job to job. I tried waitressing, I tried reception work in a hotel. I was working for Right to Buy in the council offices, and it was nothing. I was literally there. If I did more than 6 months in a job, then I'd done good. I was one of those that just constantly job hopped. And then I set up a little company on my own called DOS, which was Daintree Office Services. I never forget it. I had my computer and I would do people's invoices and stuff like that. But it was the most loneliest thing I'd ever done, and I need people around me. So I worked part-time in this company, and I went to a recruiter, and she said, "Do you know what? You'd be really good at recruitment." I had no idea. So I got this job, and then I went from part-time to full-time. And within 6 months, I was a senior recruiter. And within 12 months, I was a manager. And I just thought, this is the bee's knees. And I've worked in the world of recruitment ever since, because it was great. One of the questions I know you was going to ask is, who are you now? But who am I now is a very similar person to the one person I was then. I'm just a connector of people, whether it's social media, recruitment, or adventure. I think that's what I do, is I connect people. So that's the string that ties it all together, if that makes sense.
So who are you now? Because I have jumped. I'm like, yeah. So who are you now? What do you do now?
So now I've gone completely opposite. I live in the outdoors, and I just take people on adventures. I love seeing someone who never thought they could climb a mountain touch that trig point. I like someone who's never been kayaking in Norway have the time of their life, even though they're freezing cold and sopping wet. I just pushing people outside their comfort zone and making them feel alive is what I do. And I had the same feelings when I was in recruitment of securing that person with the perfect job. It gets the old heart fluttering. And that's what I do. So now I take people on adventures. I've just come back from doing Hadrian's Wall and taking people over the Pyrenees Mountains, and it was just awesome. That's what I do.
So I never knew about the trampolining, so that's really interesting, and I never knew that was your original start. So you've gone from outdoors, sporty, into an office, doing lots of other office jobs, into recruitment, then into managing people, then setting up your own business in recruitment.
Yeah.
Flipping that then into a social media company that supported recruiters.
Yeah.
Then coming out of that whole world where you don't have a desk anymore. Your desk is a field or a mountain because you're outdoors. So the thing that I'm really curious about, when you stop and look at your career, how did you flip from running a recruitment business to then not doing that because you sold that, to then starting and setting up a social media business, selling that, and then moving into this? They feel quite big decisions to me. How did you get there? And I suppose what I'd love to understand a little bit more is, was there times, and I suppose I'm thinking really about the recruitment business and the social media business, because you're content in the role that you're doing and the business you run now. Were there times that things started to feel a little bit more, I'm not loving this as much as I used to? And because I think people get lost in, I'm having a bad day, a bad week, Is it the job? Is it the company? What is it? And I think a lot of people go through that on quite a circular,
Mm.
and they go round and round and round. You obviously got to a point in recruitment where you thought, this isn't for me anymore. Is that what happened? Is there
So
points that you can point to that you think this was what happened?
I'll tell you the story. In Tommy Cooper style, it's tell you a story. So I had absolutely no intentions of doing anything else but recruitment.
Okay.
So, but I've always loved the outdoors. So I wanted to buy this trailer tent. Right, I've seen this wicked trailer tent that was up in Manchester, and it was called a camplet trailer tent. And you press a button, it folds out like a pram, and I could go off on my adventures at the weekend with Rachel. But Matt, who's my husband, he was always done the finance in the business, for the recruitment business as well as every other business I've had. And he says, Julia, this trailer tent that you want is £8,000. There's no way on earth you're going to take £8,000 out of the business for a fad. That was his words that he used. And I was like, right, okay. But then he challenged me. So this was the December. And he says, Julia, if you want this trailer tent, that's fine. But you need to raise some money doing something else, something outside of Ethos Recruitment, which was the name of my business. So I was thinking, right, challenge, Julia. So this is the December, and I knew the camping and caravan show was at the end of the February. So I had like 2 and a bit months to raise this 8 grand. And I thought, okay, apart from recruitment, what else am I good at? And then I realised that I weren't advertising in newspapers anymore because I got Facebook and Twitter like sorted. I need 32 banana pickers for tomorrow. I put it on Facebook and that's it. They were filled by the next day. And I was going really, really well. And I'd done lots of business networking. I'd been BNI, FSB, for networking, all the local networking things. So I knew loads and loads of local people. So I worked it out. I thought if I get a room full of people and I do 3 courses a week for 2 months up until the February, then I get my £8,000 and I teach these people how to do social media courses. So I did a 5-week course, one on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. I can't remember what the other one. Oh, Pinterest back in the day. So I did
Yeah.
those 5, and people were signing up for a 5-week course. Uh, and it was brilliant. And do you know what? I absolutely loved doing the social media thing, but I had no intention of that being a business at all. And I just wanted my trailer tent. So I got my trailer tent. I raked it in. I got my trailer tent at the end of February. And then all these business people are saying to me, when are you doing your next set of workshops, Julia? I was like, well, I'll do some next month. What else can I buy with some extra cash? And then literally that sort of overtook my life because everyone just wanted to learn more about social media. This is when social media was just born. And
Yeah.
within 12 months, I was bored of doing the recruitment. I had an opportunity to sell to an international company. So I sold, and I had to work for them for 12 months, which was horrible. And I ran the social media marketing business at the same time. And yeah, that sort of took off, and then I sold that 12 months later.
Julia, that seems quite fluky.
I know, but I know it is.
Isn't that about
And
an opportunity,
absolutely,
isn't it? It's like everybody, so people think about careers and they're all like finely planned. But this comes to the point of something happens and you just take that opportunity, isn't that's what I'm hearing. That's the message in that story for me.
well, to me, it was a no-brainer. I was out at weekends. It's like I was doing like driving recruitment, so I was constantly on call. On
Yeah,
Christmas
yeah,
Day, I'd be filling Eddie Stobart drivers because I didn't want to put my
yeah.
staff through that. And there comes a time when you've been doing it that long that you don't want to do that anymore. I wanted to be
No.
out in my trailer tent with going and doing these adventures. I didn't want to be filling jobs for drivers and stuff.
Really, that's really interesting. So that gave you the out, and that you probably didn't realize you didn't have clarity that you wanted that out. So I've got a question for you on this, because as I say, we've known each other just over a decade. And I know when you had the social media company, so obviously then, you know, you set up your social media business, which was brilliant for supporting all the recruitment industries. But I know that you used to every year take yourself off to a hotel. Because you're social media, you would show us what you were doing, which was absolutely brilliant. It's how we learned. So I learned a lot of my stuff. And you would certainly hide yourself away for at least 24 hours, maybe longer, to think about your year ahead.
I still do
And
that.
so I know you're going to still do it. I would be very surprised if you didn't still do it. Did you do that in the recruitment business? Or was that a new thing that came in the
Yeah,
social media business? Oh, you did?
yeah. I've done it for. I've got diaries from when I was like in my teens, when I've sat, not taken myself away, but I've always set goals. Um,
Okay.
and I think, yeah, learning stuff. The style has changed over the years.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I've always had goals, and I've always been very ambitious and always striving for the next thing. Sometimes to the detriment of, family or friends. Sometimes very, very driven, but yeah, that is me. That's what I'm like. I like it written down. And I think
Wow.
for me,
Okay.
putting it out there publicly makes me accountable to
So was
get
that the change then? So if you've always done diaries, they've then just evolved. You ever had a business coach?
yeah.
And did that impact how you set your goals and looked at your goals?
Yeah, that changed the style in which I would do
Okay.
it. Yeah. So yeah, when I was in my early 20s, I would just say, I want this thing, and it would be quite materialistic.
Yeah.
Whereas it would be including things like health and stuff like that as I got older.
Interesting. I think, and I was going to ask, what piece of advice at the end, but I think this is quite an important area. But I think that's a really critical tool for people that are going through any part of change in their life, to be able to take stock. Because I think if you don't take stock at a certain point, again, you're just constantly going, and you could be really happy achieving loads, but it's a bit of a sensor check, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, for probably the last maybe 15 years, maybe, no, probably not as long as that, maybe 12 years, I've gone by Michael Hyatt. So I don't know if you know Michael Hyatt.
No, I don't actually know.
Okay, so he's got a fantastic book called Living Forward, and he talks about things called capital accounts. And this is so you have 10 things that are really important to you. So, and you put them in order of priority as well. So, career, family, money, well-being, might be religion. Yeah, there are various different things.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
actually having those capital accounts, and that you start off is a book, which is like an exercise, and it starts off, you write your own eulogy, which I know sounds depressing, but it actually makes you really take stock of what you want out of life and where you want to be, and it makes you visualize certain aspects of. And that's what I sit and do every year, those few days in between Christmas and New Year. I set my goals for the next year, but I go through all those capital accounts. But once you've got those sorted, it's really easy to say no to stuff because it
okay.
doesn't fit, it doesn't align. Otherwise, you end up saying yes to loads of stuff that doesn't actually fulfill exactly what you want. That's really hard to explain
No,
without going into it in too much. But yeah, life planning, I do that every single year. And it's not necessarily just about setting goals. It's about keeping yourself on the right train track. And sometimes that train is going off in the wrong direction. But if you don't take stock, you don't bring yourself back and put yourself on the right train track.